Gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Everybody gon' vote. Comrade! Labor right, them a go down, bong. Them a go down, bong. Them a go down. Is that? Margie, him a God picking. No hope their work if you touch Margie. Margie, him a God picking. No hope their work if you touch Margie. We now vote for Labour. Orange we a come out in now. If you love the PNP, who no step out for Marky G. Jamaica just come along with we. People time come, people time come, people time is up.
Only thing that's on my mind is who's gonna run this town tonight.
Yeah, I say that we are pledge of allegiance.
Who's gonna run this town tonight?
Yeah, I say that we
We gonna run this town.
Make the trumpets play. Make the trumpets play.
You know, I honestly believe that since SSL was not making any money for the investors, and since SSL was brought back into business by the Jamaica Labour Party, Andrew Holness and Nigel-led administration, I do believe that the Jamaica Labour Party for return them money there where SSL give them for run them campaign. We wanna believe.
Mr. Speaker, we recognize that crime and other socially negative behaviors in Jamaica emerge from the imbalanced structure of our society. This is why we prioritize social justice and workers' rights as an essential part of the role of government. The next PNP government will introduce structural reforms that balance the interests of workers and employers to bring about productivity, equity, and decent work. Our government will seek to ensure that the workers of Jamaica are respected and their rights are protected. And I'm going to share some of our proposals with you. As I've said, we will approach all negotiations with the public sector workers and their representatives with respect, openness, and a spirit of partnership. We will enact comprehensive legislation to eliminate abusive contractual arrangements which circumvent employment rights right across the economy. The government is going through a slow and incremental process of eliminating this practice from the public sector. And it was thrust on the government by the ruling of the court, which affected security guards. But that is incrementalism and is not enough. Many workers outside of the government service, the public sector, are affected by this problem. We will ensure equal treatment of all workers, regardless of the legal form of their contracts. We will pursue the establishment of joint industrial councils in those industries where there are high levels of employment, but there's no common standard for working conditions and there's no union representation. The security guard industry, the tourism industry, the global services BPO, those industries are cases in point where a joint industrial council would really move things forward. We'll review the incentives legislation for employee share ownership plans to make it user-friendly and easy to comply with and administer, followed by a promotional exercise to encourage Jamaican firms to establish employee share ownership plans which align employer and employee interests and create wealth for their workers at all levels, from the bearer right up to the CEO. And I've had personal experience that the consistent empowerment and enrichment that workers can benefit from through employee share ownership plans. We will establish a commission to examine the dire situation now faced by communities in the former sugar areas, and to develop a comprehensive plan for the economic revitalization of those areas. And we've seen in the sugar belts across the country where sugar has atrophied with nothing to replace it, and what has in fact replaced it is scamming on other activities and high levels of violent crime. We need to do something about that. And we will put in place proper and dignified relocation arrangements for the families of former sugar workers. We have seen too many cases where they're not being treated fairly, in Innswood and so on, where they're being moved off the land without any proper arrangements being made to house them. These priority areas will be built out using social transformation and social protection interventions, techniques, and measures linked into health and wellness strategies. They will be informed by gender considerations and directly address the needs of persons with disabilities, with inclusion being a guiding principle. Land and shelter remain important national priorities. On the minds of hardworking Jamaicans is the question, will they ever be able to enjoy the security of being able to own a piece of land or a house? Using data from the 2022 Voluntary National Review Report of the 2030 Agenda and the SDGs, we know that in 2019, over 100,000 fewer Jamaicans rented or lived in their own home than in 2007. 100,000 fewer Jamaicans. 30% of households were either living rent-free with the owner's consent, what Jamaicans would call cotching, or they were occupying premises without the legal owner's consent. That represented an increase of 10 percentage points over the preceding decade. If you live in a major urban center, you are most concerned about the fact that the price of housing built under this JLP government is out of reach for most people. Shelter is one of the basic needs of our people. In the Jamaican historical and socio-economic context, it requires a proactive policy by the state to provide affordable housing for our people. The People's National Party understands this. It is what motivated us to develop Portmore, the largest residential community in the English-speaking Caribbean, and so many other major schemes, Harbourview, Mona Heights, Frontier Heights, and a plethora of other housing developments across the island. It is why, in 1976, the Most Honourable Michael Manley established a National Housing Trust to provide affordable housing for Jamaicans. It is why the Most Honourable P.J. Patterson in the 1990s established a program called Operation Pride to provide land and housing for citizens, which despite its challenges, delivered over 50,000 titled lots for people in Pines of Karachi, Mount Edgecombe, Melrose Mews, Bedworth Gardens, Bel Air, and a host of other communities. And similarly, the Most Honourable Portia Simpson Miller embarked on an initiative to remove barracks housing and provide houses for sugar workers to live in dignity. In stark contrast, this government has built a mere 200 social houses, one dege since 2016, a paltry average of 25 housing units per year. And it presided over the demolition of poor people's houses in Clifton and St. Catherine and sought to evict 65 settled families from their homes in the widest Vale. In truth and in fact, the cost of housing is out of reach to ordinary Jamaicans, with a two-bedroom unit on the market costing over $20 million, while the NHT only provides up to $9 million to a contributor to purchase a home. The NHT has been financially weakened by the government's continued extraction of $11.4 billion every year to finance the budget of the government since 2016. After the 2013 to 2016 IMF program ended, we had put that in place for 4 years, when we had a mountain of debt to get Jamaica out of, and we had a very high primary surplus target. It was never supposed to be extended. The recent decision to require NHT contributors earning over $31,000 a week to borrow from private financial institutions flows from that extraction of resources for so many years now since this government came to power. And whereas contributors to NHT have been charged interest rates of 5% by the NHT, private financial institutions are charging around 9% now, and the NHT is having to subsidize those private financial institutions for the difference in those rates. And that's going to further weaken the institution. Jamaica needs change, and we are on the road to change. We recognize recognize that the police, the soldiers, the teachers, the nurses, civil servants, young professionals need access to affordable housing. So that must be the road to change. And some of our proposals include, we will repurpose the NHT to ensure that it focuses on the building of affordable housing. We will end the extraction of $11.4 billion a year from the NHT for the government's budget and put this money into building affordable houses for our people. We will provide targeted and well-designed incentives for developers to get into the construction of affordable housing so that more of our population can afford to acquire a home using their NHT benefits. And we will complete the unfinished Operation Pride schemes so that the residents enjoy the full benefits of what was started for them. And we will launch a new program based on a similar concept, but with a robust and transparent accountability structure to tackle the deep problem of informal settlements across Jamaica and bring dignified housing in organized communities to our citizens.
Today I want to talk to you about the importance of getting enumerated. Now, imagine looking around your constituency, your community, and identifying things that you want changed, but you don't have a say in making those changes. If you get registered to vote today or before March 31st, you'll become eligible to vote by May 31st. So I want to implore you to get on the voters list, get registered so that you can have a meaningful say in the changes that are effected in your constituency.
Me I practice my ex. Because I want to make sure say my part don't spoil this election day. Long time them labor right there for gone, you know. Them two uncaring, man. Make sure say my mark the ex right there, so. Because I don't want the ballot spoil. See that ex, yeah? For the teacher, them want to get them pay. You see that ex, yeah? And for the people them want dead pan hospital bench because they never have no bed. You see that ex, yeah? And for the police them want work overtime and can't get them overtime pay. Yeah, man. See that ex, yeah? And for the big salary what the politician them give themselves, and I can't get little salary to the people them. That ex right now, yeah. For the nurse them. The nurse them. Or if you are working long hours and can't get no pay, if you go out foreign if you try to survive. You see, oh man, that ex, yeah? This is because that time they take the bulldozer and mash up the house them out of Clifton. You see that ex, yeah? And the arrogance and the dictatorship where they try to run the country under. You see one there right there, so I feel all of the disrespect what they want to come give Jamaican. I make sure I say me mark my ex properly. Time come for a change. Time come for a better Jamaica.